Elizondo's media onslaught begins, guys. This is awesome. So get in here. Let's talk about it. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I'll talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like and subscribe and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. But yeah, with Lou's book imminent coming out this week, he begins his media campaign to promote the book and get out the truth for UFO disclosure. Here's an article from the Daily Mail. The former head of a secret government UFO program has spoken out in an interview with the Daily Mail before revealing in a new book why he is certain the Pentagon has material from crashed non-human spacecraft. And I'll let you read the rest of the article at your leisure. Here's another article from an Australian publication. Former Pentagon UFO investigator makes claims of non-human craft biological implants in memoir. And it goes on to talk about that very subject. And here he is, most importantly, most significantly today, on CBS Mornings. So let's just give a watch to Lou's appearance on CBS.
You talk about this idea of these crafts being created to, quote, be friends from out of town. What makes you so certain that they're not made by humans? And also, if I could, early in your book, you said when governments lie to their people, all of democracy is at risk. Do you think the government is lying?
Well, we know that the government never lies, right? The Iran-Contra, Pentagon Papers, Afghanistan withdrawal. No, unfortunately, the government is not this huge colossal machine, if you will. It's segregated into these little fiefdoms, if you will. And unfortunately, they don't always coordinate and talk with one another. As far as these vehicles not being made by humans, if you will, that's not me saying that. We have scientists, some of the top scientists that your taxpayer dollars have paid for them to conduct this research. And at the end of the day, when you're studying the material and you're studying the capabilities of these vehicles, and frankly, there's nothing that we have that compares to what these vehicles can do, the capabilities that they're demonstrating in front of us, then one has to ask, well, where are they from? And if it's not our technology and it's not some sort of adversarial technology, it's someone's technology.
It's definitely somebody's technology. I would love for him to talk about, human-operated UFOs, because obviously that's a thing as well. But the important thing is for him to get across the idea that there are indeed non-humans here, and they've probably been here for a long time. They're interacting with us. They're flying around in UFOs. If he started talking about humans flying around in their own UFOs, that would kind of muddy the waters. The important thing right now is UFO disclosure and getting the truth out to the people of the world that we are not alone. And then later down the line can come the deeper revelations about what is really going on at the deepest levels of the control group. So as much as I would love the full truth, the full Monty of UFO disclosure with Lou's book, I know we're not going to get that, and I don't expect that. And also, I don't know how much of that Lou is actually aware of or part of. I'm sure he's heard rumors and stuff like that, but I don't know how much access he actually has to that deeper stuff. I suspect not that much. But let's continue with the interview.
In a statement to CBS News, the Pentagon spokesperson said that the department will follow the data wherever it leads. However, to date, we have not found any credible evidence of extraterrestrial activity. Are there other explanations that should be considered? Is there hard evidence that this is a non-human technology?
That's a great point. And so I think we need to look at this from a temporal aspect, a time aspect. I think if you were to look at it now and say, well, there's no evidence these things are, if you will, not human. The reality is we've been dealing with this topic as a government for decades. So it's not like there's some sort of adversarial technology that just popped on the proverbial radar that's ahead of us. This is something we've been dealing with as a nation for 60 years. So let's put that into perspective. This would be like going into King Tut's tomb for the very first time and finding a fully assembled 747 inside the tomb. It doesn't make sense, right? From a time perspective, we're talking the 1950s, the late 1940s, where this technology has been demonstrated over controlled U.S. airspace, over some of our most sensitive military installations. And by the way, there's official U.S. documentation that substantiates this.
You know what? Yeah, I think that's really interesting because you said that thing about King Tut's tomb before. And at the time, that really, got me excited, finding high technology in an ancient tomb or, drawing a parallel or an analogy to something like that potentially. But here he seems to be, expanding on that or clarifying that and saying that no, what he's talking about is simply that back in the day, back in the 50s, when, they certainly wouldn't have been able to have anything analogous to a UFO. Not that we do now in conventional levels, but certainly not back then. Then they're faced with this high technology, and obviously it's not coming from them, right? So I think that's really interesting, and this clarification on this this idea that he's mentioned before.
I really enjoyed your book. I thought it was really eye-opening about the secrets that people keep. You make a point of saying you believe secrets have an expiration date. And it seems you and your family really went through hell as part of your job, both physically and mentally. And at one point you ended up quitting your job, and your wife said to you, "Who quits a job without a job?" And you said to her what?
Well, I said to her a lot of things, I'm sure. At the end of the day, I made the decision to leave my job and pursue this topic because it was the right thing to do. And I don't think my family would have respected me if I didn't.
You said a man who can't live with himself. That's a line that stood out to me. But why do they want to keep this a secret? And what do you mean that secrets have expiration dates in less than 90 seconds?
Sure, less than 90 seconds. Well, secrets are made to protect two things, sources and methods. They're not designed to stop, if you will, the American people from learning the truth about embarrassing things or trying to hide things. This is a topic where I believe America can handle the truth. And I think America deserves to know the truth about this topic, about your taxpayer money that's been spent over the decades to try to figure out just what the heck is going on. Look, you have former directors of national intelligence, former directors of CIA, and even former presidents all coming out saying, yeah, this is a valid and real topic and a national security issue.
Yeah, and I think there's so much information.
So yeah, there you go. Again, talking about the national security implications of this, which I think is important but very unfortunate. Clearly the control group is shooting at UFOs. They very likely legitimately see some of this as a national security threat. We have people like Jim Semivan who have talked about going into a CIA meeting, where behind closed doors they were expressing great fear of the phenomenon and, possibly preparing against it. And, we have similar, expressions of fear from Tom DeLonge. George, the DARPA whistleblower, also has a similar take on things. These are evil aliens, and we have to prepare against them. And I hope Lou doesn't lean too heavily into the book. I'm afraid that he's going to. He's talked about this many times before, that the phenomenon itself may not be a threat, but we have to treat it like it might be. There is the potential for a threat. You lock your house up and you find, muddy footprints in your house, and you have to treat that as a potential threat, even if you don't know if that is, if the intruder is actually threatening you or not. And I think that's a really unfortunate way to frame the phenomenon. It's an important way and a totally valid way, and I get it. But a lot of this does seem to have to do with consciousness. And, we are interacting with something with our consciousness, and many of these UFO events are co-created with us, with our own consciousness. Something's interacting with us, and we are interacting with it. And we want those interactions to be as positive as possible, and for our relationship with the phenomenon to be as positive as possible. I think it's very important to get positive messages about the phenomenon out there to counter these national security threat messages, which again are important and perfectly valid, but it's a very unfortunate framing, especially going forward with UFO disclosure. If this is how they are framing UFO disclosure, I think it's a really unfortunate way to frame it. Again, there's valid reasons for it, and I can understand why the DoD would be framing it in that way. But clearly there's a lot more to it as well. I mean, my main UFO event was very mystical and very positive, and many others have had very positive experiences as well. According to the Edgar Mitchell Foundation, 8 out of 10 long-term abductees or conductees contactees have a positive view on the phenomenon and their own experiences with it, even if there were some negative elements thrown in there, which there often are. Sometimes very negative. Whitley Strieber will openly use the R word to describe his first encounter. So, that is part of it. But Willie Strieber has gone on to have a very profound and deep and positive relationship with the phenomenon, as have many others. So I think this framing of the national security threat is unfortunate. I hope that's not, reinforced too heavily in the book. So we'll have to see how that plays out and where the conversation goes from there. But yeah, it is unfortunate that this may be the way the conversation starts with the public. I think we are starting off on the wrong foot there. And because we don't know what the UFO control group is doing and who they're working with and who they're shooting at, we don't know if the UFOs they are shooting at actually represent in any way a national security threat. I don't think they do. Because obviously if they wanted to, they could just wipe us all out anytime they wanted to. They haven't done that. In fact, quite the opposite in many cases. Preston Dennett has a full hour-long video describing the various instances where UFOs have actually healed people. So, it's very complex. However, as much as I say that we co-create many of these experiences, I do have to add that we don't co-create a lot of these experiences. So, the people in Colares, Brazil, who were being attacked by UFOs, they were shooting beams at them and draining them of blood, or at least causing anemia in them. And there were deaths associated with those events. They weren't co-creating that. So there is definitely an independent element of the phenomenon outside of anything to do with our consciousness that is interacting with us, sometimes in very negative ways. And I can totally see us wanting to prepare against that and working against that if at all possible. But it's strange because because this has been hidden from us for so long, we don't know exactly what's what. We don't know what percentage is positive, what percent is negative. We don't know how much of it is associated with our consciousness and how much of it is acting completely independently of us. This is important information that has been kept from us. So we don't know if the camp that is on this national security threat mission, if they are more right or more wrong. And the phenomenon hasn't been super helpful either, as far as addressing this in a public and open way in ways that we can corroborate. So, if the phenomenon wants to step up and say, hey, we're not a threat, they definitely have that opportunity. So, we'll see what shakes out, guys. Let me know your thoughts about this. Either way, I remain very excited about Lou's book and very excited about the efforts of the pro-disclosure group that are organizing all this and orchestrating this. Got Lou's book, James Fox's documentary, got UFO hearings, all within the same time frame. And I imagine there's some orchestration and coordination among them to get that done, to make the biggest possible impact and probably to stimulate Congress to greater action. I imagine that's kind of the goal here. So I really support all of that, but I do worry about this whole, framing it as a threat idea. I think that's really unfortunate, and I would love your takes on that in the comments below. So let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, become a channel member, buy some merch in the merch store. There's coffee mugs, there are t-shirts, there's plenty of other videos on the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Jack with Cosmic Road, signing out.